Okay, let's do this. Championship. Mid-season predictions. The Not the Top 20 podcast, sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. Him, George Ellick, me, Ali Maxwell, sitting here in Spotify studios. Can you believe to record some significant pods? Because it's been a crazy few weeks, festive period, FA Cup third round, in which more than half of the Championship teams got knocked out. Big shout out Wrexham for beating Nottingham Forest on pens on Friday night. Great stuff, that. But it's just been a bit of a whirlwind few weeks in life, in football, on the pod. We do the mid-season predictions and then we turn for home and we see what happens. George, we'll start with the Championship automatic picture, where we have Coventry top on 52, Middlesbrough second on 46, Ipswich on 44 with a game in hand, then Preston and Millwall on 43, Watford and Hull on 41, Stoke and Wrexham on 40, Bristol City 39, QPR 38. I'll stop there. What's the situation here, George? We had pre-season Ipswich and Southampton in the top two. I think we'll be making some tweaks this time.
I don't think Southampton are going to finish in the top two. That's the first thing to say here.
Bold.
Yeah, I just can't see it at this stage, given they are 20 points off top spot. I've gone for Coventry to win the league. And, you know, when you're saying that in a weird way, given they're 6 points clear at the moment, they're the obvious choice to win the league. They are favourites to win the league, as you'd expect. But I guess people who follow the Championship from afar might be surprised to hear that in terms of the betting, the bookies, they are currently 4-7 to win the league. But that is drifted quite a lot from where they were a couple of years ago.
A couple of months ago.
Sorry, a couple of years ago. A couple of months ago.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago. And it's kind of edging towards that 50% area where I think if they were to lose a couple more games in this spell, it would probably get there, and then it becomes a flip of a coin. I think you have to basically guard against being too persuaded by this wobble and assuming that this is going to be their performance from now until the end of the season. I think the signing of Roman Esse is obviously very, very good in terms of bringing in a player who should have some huge moments for them between now and the end of the season. And part of the reason why I've got them top is because in second, I've got Ipswich. Now, that means that I think Ipswich will overtake Middlesbrough between now and the end of the season. And if that's the case, then it's irrelevant looking at the 6-point gap between Borough and Coventry. It's the 8-point gap between Ipswich and Coventry that you're looking at as being the reason to flip the two.
With a game in hand.
And having played each other already twice, and albeit 2 games at Ipswich won, there isn't that opportunity for Ipswich to claw that back again in a game between the two. So I think Ipswich will pick up more points than Coventry between now and the end of the season. But I'm like pretty confident that quite soon, like we've seen this so many times. We saw it with Leicester. We saw it with Leeds. Like teams at the top end of the Championship often go through this kind of strange little mid-season slump. And then as soon as things get tight again, they kick on and they find their stride and they find a way to do it. And I'm pretty sure that soon we'll be talking about this Coventry blip, wobble, mini crisis, whatever you want to call it, as a thing of the past rather than an elongated, demise.
Collapse.
Yeah.
I think that Coventry City will be a Premier League team next season. I think it'll be the culmination of just a fabulous 5 years for the club. I think everyone can and will feel very proud of themselves. I think Ipswich Town will win the Championship, and I think Coventry will finish second. With Coventry, they were a terrifying super team. There's no doubt about that. For August, for September, for October, for November, they caught the league off guard, basically, with an amazing style of play. They were blitzing teams. Their attacking players were dovetailing brilliantly. Every month, it felt like a new player stepped up. Thomas Asante, most notably. Then Ellis Sims. Then Ephron Mason Clark. But it doesn't last forever. And crucially, compared to the teams that you just referenced, I think it was Leicester, I think it was Leeds, they are not a parachute payment team. They do not have a squad full of 25 expensive players who can shift in and out and help carry things on where others fall. They do have a very good squad, probably the best that's been built by a non-parachute payment team. And maybe that's enough to plug that gap. And maybe that's enough to counteract what I'm suggesting, which is that I think they will find it harder to re-find that super team level, having had a little bit of a wobble. In the last 2 months, they've been not horrendous, but certainly not a super team, and certainly not the top team in the league. More like a top 6 team, I would say, in terms of results and performances, rather than a 100-point super team. And I think being a top 6 team from this point on, if that's what they'll be, they'll still come second. I've got enough of the question marks around all the other teams not named Ipswich. But I think if there's a team to have a flying second half of the season, it's still Ipswich to me that are most likely. They have that 8-point gap to make up with a game in hand. As you say, they don't play each other again. But I think those 2 wins over Coventry have done a lot intangibly for Ipswich's confidence, for Coventry's confidence, quite frankly. I don't see 8 points with a game in hand as a huge tally, to be honest. When it comes to Ipswich, them being the team that I think suddenly fly from this point and pick up 2.1, 2.2 points per game to win this league, they have such clear improvements in the back line over the last few months. The change in goal from Palmer to Walton has been massively significant and I think a little under-discussed, certainly by me on this podcast. I think it's the first time I've mentioned it. Walton's been sensational. The back four looks more settled and a little bit happier than it did at the start of the season. And in midfield, that's massive as well, because I felt like they were looking really poor, quite alarmingly poor at times. Not the team that they should be in terms of controlling things in midfield and struggling to find another midfield to perform like Morsi and Luongo did or back in the day. But Matussi was coming on well. I think is playing really well at the moment. Kajuste and Jack Taylor, questioned both of them a few months ago. They both look way more comfortable in the last month or two. And frankly, Marcelino Nunez in the number 10 role has been a complete revelation. And if you watch Ipswich's play, Ipswich's goals from the last month or two, you'll see Nunez at the heart of so much. The top of the pitch out wide, Philogene and Clark are basically providing a goal a game, whoever plays off the left. Egley's coming on a little bit on the right and scored some big goals in the last month or so as well. Still not perfect at the top of the pitch, but they have the players and the manager that make me believe that things will keep going and possibly get even better. I think there might be another gear left in Ipswich. And I think they'll go one better than 2 years ago and actually win this league. Now, transfers make a pretty big difference at this point at the top of the league. That's been the case in the last couple of years. Now, Coventry have gone early with Essa and with Yang, and for me that gives them good depth in the wide areas, and I could see Essa potentially being an upgrade on Sakamoto on the right wing. Having said that, I think with Essa, there's potential that we're a bit blinded by the fact that he got the move to Crystal Palace. He hasn't done very much for Crystal Palace, and at the point where he moved to Crystal Palace, he wasn't one of the better or most effective wide attackers in the league. He was a potential signing for Palace, not one of the best players in the Championship. And so I don't see this as Leeds buying Manor Solomon, as Burnley buying Marcus Edwards. These guys came in and made already really good teams significantly better at the top of the pitch. I don't necessarily think Coventry have done that with the signings of Essa and Yang. Although they will improve the depth and the options that they have, I don't think those guys are necessarily going to be among the best players in the league. And so I think with Ipswich likely still to have business to do, and likely it will be quite eye-catching business because of the parachute payments that they have. I think Ipswich win this league. I think Coventry finish second. And I think in terms of transfer coverage, you should be subscribed to NTT20.com because we're covering every single EFL transfer, and some of the big ones are going to be very, very significant. We do daily bulletins on NTT20.com, and you can pop your email in and we'll send them straight to your inbox. In terms of the playoff places, we've got the same top two, George, which means playoff places up for grabs. We currently have Ipswich in third, so Borough we don't have making the top two. Will be a part of this conversation. Then there's Preston and Millwall in fourth and fifth, Watford and Hull on 41 in 6th and 7th, Stoke a point back, Wrexham as well on 40, Bristol City, QPR, Leicester, Derby on 35 are only 6 points off it, Birmingham on 34 only 7 points off it, Southampton are only 8 points off it, Sheffield United are on 32 and 9 points off it with Swansea, and West Brom have just made a new manager hire in Eric Ramsey, they're 10 points off it. We have to include all those teams because Coventry were 11 points off when we did mid-season predictions last year, and they made the playoffs.
Did either of us have them in?
Nope. I even said 11 points in 20 games is too much of a gap for Coventry to make up, and that was categorically wrong.
Idiot. Yeah, I've got Borough in there. I'm in no way negative about Borough. I think they are a good finishing streak, or even an average finishing streak right now from being basically level on points with Coventry. That's how crazy that run was in their kind of 4 or 5 games prior to the win over Southampton. That they are 6 points off top spot despite having a run of form where none of their players could kick the ball in the goal. Having said that, a lot of their points came early in the season when they were on the right side of kind of some variance there. But I like Hellberg. I think they're rock solid. They've got a lot of, I say they're rock solid. They are, in terms of a good team at championship level, rock solid in terms of they're going to pick up points, they're going to win games, they've got enough quality to do that. I think Hellberg's proven himself to be very capable of setting this team up to dominate games. The continued presence of Hayden Hackney in their midfield is a positive. Morgan Whittaker finding some form this season has been important. They need a striker. I think Tommy Conway's days as being Borough's kind of main goal-scoring hope are surely numbered, with a lot of Borough fans having kind of completely lost faith in him to be that guy. But I see no reason why they will drop off to the extent needed to fall out of the top 6 altogether. Got Watford in there, who seem to me to be trending very much in the right direction. 4 wins in a row now. Javi Gracia has taken, and we said at the time, the evidence in the XG numbers was that they were already a good team, and he has kind of coaxed them into one that pick up points regularly. The return of Max Elaine from his loan spell is obviously frustrating to Manchester City because he was a huge player for them, but I can't see it having the kind of impact that's necessary for them to fall out of it. And I think right now they are one of the better teams in the league.
I've got Borough and Watford in there as well,
cool.
Just to jump in because there's no point in us kind of regurgitating stuff. Hellberg, hell yes. Still my stance on Hellberg.
I'm really
what
excited.
You just said about that cold finishing streak and the fact that had they just finished their chances to a normal degree, they'd be level on points with Coventry. Does make me wonder if we're all so blinded by Coventry for some reason that we're not giving more credence to the suggestion that Borough might finish above them in the league. And I'm now sitting here in Spotify studios questioning myself and everything I've ever thought.
That's what I try and do.
It's the injuries
every
at the
time
back.
I open my mouth.
It's the individuals at the sharp end of the pitch, your Conways, etc., that I'm just not sure I truly believe in as a top 2 team. But they've made so much money in the transfer market in the last few years. And you do that to give yourself a stronger position in the food chain. Surely this is the position they're in to spend. And I love what I've seen from Hellberg, but we don't know about him. We don't know for sure that at the business end, he's going to really, really step up. For Watford, I've said a couple of times, I'm really into them at the moment. I do think I have to recognise it's only really been 4 to 6 games where I've been in love with this Watford team, and things don't always last forever, and they have got a lot of young players. So inconsistency and or injuries could still be an issue over the next few months. But right now, as I keep saying, I think they're one of the best teams. So I got them in. What about you next up?
So then you've got to make a decision, right? Because
I made a big one.
There are, Preston and Millwall are right there. They're on 43 points each. They are in 4th and 5th. Do they have the staying power? Can they do this? Can they stay in the top 6? Because with every passing week, it seems like it's more likely. And then you assess the teams beneath them, like Hull, who were this crazy attacking team for most of the season, who seem to have kind of dropped off a little bit in terms of that attacking output, but also better defensively and still picking up points fairly regularly. Stoke, who started the season incredibly well, who are now falling away. Wrexham, who started the season quite badly, but have won 4 games in a row. Bristol City, who finished in the top 6 last season, who are catching the eye at the moment. And I've kind of come down on the idea that I think Millwall are the ones that I struggle to see maintaining this. They, it's kind of wild for me. Taking away any granular performance data, can a team who from 26 games have scored 29 goals and conceded 33 goals out of a goal difference of -4, but have managed to pick up 43 points in the 26 games, can that continue? I think it's so statistically improbable.
Yeah.
If you are that, incapable of scoring goals and your defensive record isn't even particularly good, to continue to pick up points. So I've got Millwall out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Preston in there.
Nice.
Which I think may have surprised me a bit. They still have to go to all three, to Coventry, Borough and Ipswich away from home, which is not easy, albeit they didn't lose to any of those three teams at home. They face a lot in the bottom half at home, which are the games they've been very strong in this season. From an attacking perspective, they are a good team and on 43 points at the moment. There's enough. The points on the board isn't huge compared to those beneath them, but they're a team that I struggle to see why they won't continue to be a solid playoff chasing side in terms of PPG, and that's what they probably need to get in there. And I think in Heckingbottom, certainly as a manager, he's someone who I think comes with when a team is built and successful under him, they tend to do pretty well. It's all a hunch. It's a case of 1 or 2 points here and there.
It made me realise how exciting the playoff race is.
Yeah,
because who's your sixth? Just tell me who the sixth team is.
Sheffield United.
Yeah, okay. So we've both got Blades in there.
Yeah.
They're what are they, like 17th in the league right now? They're
16th.
9 points off it, but they're bloody good. They're really good at the moment, Sheffield United. They're winning loads of games. They're doing so with a foundation of really strong performances and performance data, which suggests that on the balance of play and chances created, Sheffield United are basically creating twice as much as they're giving up consistently in games at the moment for a decent period of time now. That's been backed up by points. This isn't wishy-washy expected goals. This is real points. The most in the league over the last 10 games. The team that's got the most points in the league over a 10-game period is a very, very serious team that should be considered very seriously for the 20 games that we have left. And 9 points off it, we know it's not insurmountable. There are so many parallels with Coventry last season, who had strong underlying numbers, even when they weren't picking up points, who found a manager in Lampard, who took over from Robbins, and the tweaks made a massive difference. Wilder has had a similar impact on Sheffield United post the Ruben Sellers disaster class. And Cov made up 11 points in 20 games. Leagues aren't the same every single year, but it just serves to suggest that just because they're, whatever they are, 17th in the league table right now, 16th, that alone does not rule them out of making the playoffs. Norwich the season before were 13th when we did mid-season predictions. It was only a 5-point gap, but they made it up. For Sheffield United, the defence has settled down massively, and he's got various defensive players playing well, where previously they looked all at sea. In midfield, has settled down massively. He has got various midfield players playing well, where previously they looked all at sea. I'm talking about the likes of Soumare and Arblaster being added to Peck and Riedewald, etc. The attack has options in all parts of the front line. Harmer sometimes doesn't play because others have been playing so well, and what a wonderful luxury that is for him to have. So Bamford has obviously come in and made a really positive impact. I just think Sheffield United right now, I would consider them certainly in the top 4 or 5 best teams in the league right now, and I think over the course of the next 20 games that will show itself in a playoff berth. So that's yours done.
Mine done. Yeah.
Middlesbrough, Watford, Preston, and Sheffield United. I would prefer, rather than to actually pick one based on my own analysis and hunch, I would prefer to throw a dart at a board.
Okay.
And let that choose, because I have no idea who's going to make 6th spot in the Championship. There are lots of reasons
None of us do.
Not to pick any team. Or rather, there are lots of reasons to look at all the teams and find reasons not to pick them. Right now, probably high on recency. I'm going with Wrexham to make the playoffs. Now, this is, and we should say this straight off the bat, the most non-data-y pick of all time, because Wrexham are not posting good numbers. They've won 4 league games in a row. They beat Forest on pens on Friday night. The numbers aren't good, but trying to judge them by my preferred method of analysing teams
vibes
hasn't worked with Wrexham for like 2.5, 3 years now. They've slightly broken the game and my brain in the last couple of years, and I have to look at them and think that intangible stuff is a big reason for that right now. and the fact that they just keep upgrading their squad every window, which means that the team that they were 3 months ago is generally out-of-date information. Wrexham built a good squad, and it took them a while to get going, but they have done that. With Windass and Broadhead behind more, with Smith coming in for more, and when he's been injured, they look a lot better going forward. They've handled some issues at wing-back pretty well, and I expect in the second half of the season they will either buy a left wing-back to slot in. Kabore will come back from injury at right wing-back and make them look stronger there. In midfield, they've got a ton of options, and they're all doing pretty well. Rathbone in particular has come on really, really well after his injury, and at the back they look a lot better. I think in Okonkwo they have one of the best shot stoppers in the league, and he's just doing so well at the moment. So Wrexham at the moment are my dart pick for 6th spot. I think it's likely they'll make another big signing or two. That might upgrade them up top. I mean, I don't necessarily know exactly what position of the pitch they need to buy right now because they've already got lots of players. But they just keep on rolling, and I'm just tired of backing against Wrexham because it's not gone well for me so far. So I'll throw my weight behind them. I think they genuinely might nick 6th spot in this crazy league.
I reckon there's a fair chance in the Wrexham documentary they're going to play that clip and be like, "This is where it all went wrong."
Please play that clip in the Wrexham documentary.
You can tell I've watched it. Do they have that voiceover guy? The guy
the guy from Love Island.
No.
Tonight at the racecourse.
No.
Which voiceover guy?
The one I just did. Like
the guy who does the adverts? One man.
Yeah, it's him.
One desire.
I assume, given it's Hollywood, I assume
Phil Parkinson
must do the voiceover.
Is head coach.
Yeah.
Coach. No, I don't think they do. I actually haven't watched the last few seasons, so I don't know. I think you'd struggle to find any people in the football media space less interested in Wrexham's documentary. But I am interested in the team, and I like them. And I think they're going to make the top 6 along with Sheffield United, Watford and Middlesbrough. Let us know what you think in the comments section. The Championship relegation situation. Sheffield Wednesday are bottom on -7. Oxford have 22. Norwich have 24. Then Portsmouth, who've got 2 games in hand over Norwich and 1 over Oxford, have 25. 3 points above them are Blackburn on 28, then Charlton on 29. West Brom are 7 points above it at the moment on 31. They've just made a managerial change. Swansea and Sheffield United are only a point above them, so probably have to mention them as well. I've got Sheffield Wednesday going down
So do I.
on -7, and I wonder who else you've got filling your 2 spots.
So I've got Oxford. Again, on probabilities, I think it's impossible not to have Oxford in the bottom 3, given where we are right now, and given the managerial change to Matt Bloomfield. Even though it's one that I'm quite happy with as a fan, it doesn't necessarily scream. It's not like when Rowett came in this time last year and you're thinking, yeah, he's the guy to come in and turn it around. I think
it screamed survival, that didn't it?
The Rowett appointment was
survival,
a short-term appointment and a means to an end. And I think the football club did that, enjoyed it for a bit, and then realised actually, no, we need to go back to doing what we do, which is investing in the future and signing young players that have a resale value and all this other stuff, which we can't really do under Gary Rowett. And that's where Bloomfield comes in. And, even though obviously the club will hope that he can keep them up and will hope that he learned a lot from the Luton experience last season and he can take less time in taking Oxford to a team that are picking up kind of 1.5 PPG or whatever it was in the last couple of months under him. And it should be said that I think Matt Bloomfield, despite coming into a much better squad at Luton, came into a much bigger mess in terms of the actual results and performances, where he came into a Luton side who lost 4 or 5 games in a row. Unlike Oxford, who it wasn't long ago we were beating Southampton at home and putting a pretty good display when losing at Ipswich. So, there are reasons for cautious optimism. It's all going to come down for Oxford to this kind of mini league at the bottom end of the table. Oxford have only won, I think only picked up 1 point, 2 points it is against teams currently in the from 16th and lower, apart from Sheffield Wednesday, which was a 2-1 win. And it's interesting because Oxford play Sheffield Wednesday at home on the 25th of April, play Norwich at home, which was due to be on the 14th of February, but that's going to be moved now because of the FA Cup. Play Blackburn at home on the 11th of March, Charlton at home on the 14th of March.
So you need to get to March, basically. March the 11th or whenever that rearranged
and Pompey
Norwich
away
game
in
is.
April. Exactly. So basically you've got to get, Oxford have been pretty good against better teams this season. It's going to be a case, I think, for Bloomfield of just staying in touch until then and then there's going to be opportunities to pick up points against the teams you need to pick up points against, and that's going to be important. But finding a way to I think Bloomfield will play 4-2-3-1, which suits the players much better than maybe the kind of pragmatic style of Rowett, who often played a 3 or 5 at the back, which just didn't really suit the squad at all. It's kind of ironic a little bit that Bloomfield came into Luton last season, who had recruited to play with a back 3, having had success at Wycombe with a back 4, tried to play a 4, didn't work, and had to revert to the 3. This time around, it's very different, where I think he comes into a squad who have been recruited to play the way that he wants to play and have wingers and will recruit further this January. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but not enough to sit here and say
there were quite a lot more.
Matt Bloomfield's going to keep us up.
Quite a lot more teams for you to chase last year as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Reflecting on the 24-25 Championship relegation battle.
More bad teams.
It was hard to get away from the fact that 7 teams got 51 points or less, so more than a quarter of the league. This season, it's projecting to be, well, maybe only 3 or 4 that get 51 points or less. So there's less for you to chase down, but I also have Oxford going down. I don't fully trust in Matt Bloomfield's ability to get things going quick enough, and that's partly because relative to the division, I don't think he has a great squad to work with. And I do have Oxford going down. For my third relegation spot, I've got Portsmouth in there. And I've basically spent all season thinking to myself, we know that Mousinho and Portsmouth is a good thing. He's had 2 successful full seasons in charge after a good start when he came in halfway through the season. I like believing in that stuff when you've seen it before, when you've seen it be good before and you have a clear idea of what it looks like when it's good. It's not that hard to conjure those images, and I've spent basically the whole season conjuring those images and saying that they're going to be okay. They'll go on a run. They'll get going. I think I've almost gone too far with that now, where they've just had such an issue with keeping key players fit. And it looked like they'd solved it. And we had that game where we said on the pod, oh my God, look, Lang and Chaplin and Murphy played behind Bishop for 45 minutes for the first time. Get them fit, they'll be fine. But Murphy's injured again. Callum Lang's injured again. This isn't a case where they just missed 3 months and they come back and everything's hunky-dory. They are still being disrupted. And it's not just at the top of the pitch. I think Pompey basically have issues in all areas of the pitch, apart from in goal at the moment, where Schmid is great. It's fantastic news that Shaughnessy and Regan Poole are both fit, both starting at centre-back. And if you told me that Poole and Shaughnessy would start every game at the centre, in the centre of the defence from now to the end of the season, I'd be buzzing with that. But I don't know if I'm confident that'll be the case, because injury issues just seem to follow Portsmouth around at the moment. The fullback areas, I don't think they look very strong. In the centre of the park, they've not looked strong all season, and I still don't think they've quite cracked it. Only 3 players have started more than 14 league games for Portsmouth, which is just absolutely insane. They don't have this core group of players that are keeping consistent performance levels. And I think that's what they have had generally under Mousinho up to this point. So I think it's a big issue squad-wise. And then just the fact that since they joined the Championship, they've been generally good and competitive at home and really poor away from home. And they've got this weird quirk at the moment where they've played way more home games than away games, which leaves them with way more away games to play than anyone else in the league, and the fewest home games left. And as I said, there are fewer teams to chase down at the moment, and I don't think that they will be able to do so. A big part of this conversation, George, is Norwich, basically, and our belief in them and Clement getting themselves out of it, because they're another team where I kind of assume that he will. I do think that he will, but you have to accept that things aren't looking incredible, and there's still a lot of work to be done for Norwich. I think that he has made steps to sort out the defence, which is the most important thing by miles. And I think even if Josh Sargent leaves, which has been reported over the last 24 hours that he does want to move on, still think they'll get above it.
Yeah, I think Sargent is almost an irrelevance because Josh Sargent hasn't been available to Philippe Clement for pretty much his whole short tenure. So it's not like Sargent suddenly going or leaving and refusing to play on the weekend massively weakens them, because he hasn't been playing anyway. And actually, Makama playing through the middle has been a revelation, has been incredibly strong for them. So I'm not overly concerned about that. If he'd been playing all season, playing well, then it'd be a different story. And he's obviously a very good player. I just think they'll be fine. I just think they, in terms of squad quality and the performances that we've seen recently, and having initially been fairly chaotic in terms of the game plan under Clement, now it's like looking quite solid defensively.
Big improvement.
Yeah, and I think they'll be okay. I think Blackburn will be fine as well, although the vibes there aren't good. They're one of the huge data outliers of the season so far. Charlton are one that I'm probably most worried about in terms of, I've got Pompey as well, just to say, even though it'll be interesting to see what they do in January. Because I think a lot of the frustration of Pompey fans has been with the owners seemingly not, or seen to not invest in the way that they should be. I wonder, especially given the injuries, if they might do that. But even so, the form this season has been poor. Key players haven't really been performing. I thought they gave a good account of themselves given the injuries against Arsenal on Sunday, despite losing heavily. They were certainly front-footed in their approach there. I just, at the moment, they seem the likeliest to me. But Charlton are one I'm worried about. Their form has obviously tailed in recent weeks. And then the other one to look out for is Leicester, who are on 37 points, but we keep being told there's going to be a deduction at some point.
Yep.
If it's 6 points, then they're on 31 points, which is probably going to be enough unless Oxford can go on a real run. But if it's 9 points and they're on 28 points and they are not playing well, and by any measure, they are not a good team. I know that the bare results are okay, but they're still only mid-table. If they are hit with that kind of deduction, they're definitely a team that I could see sucked into the mix.
Yeah, particularly because the vibes are already horrendous, and a points deduction would only see more panic and even more pressure on the players, the manager, and those running the club, which I think would more likely lead to even worse performances than it would better performances. I suppose you could argue that if the threat of relegation looks more likely after a points deduction, that might focus the minds a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they have to be part of this conversation. And if you just look at the league table and you don't consider the reported points deduction, you might miss that fact because they are 12th right now. I mean, Charlton are quite an interesting one. They've been on the slide, I think it's fair to say, and they've got quite a lot of work to do to kind of pick back up again. I just about believe that they will. They have the reverse of Portsmouth, where they've only played 11 home games out of their 25. So they've got a lot more home games to play, and they are very, very competitive at home. And I think that means I find it hard to imagine Pompey getting above them. So I'm happy with my bottom three of Portsmouth, Oxford, and Sheffield Wednesday.
I'm not happy about it.
You're fuming about it. You've got Oxford legend Moose going down. You've got Josh Murphy going down. You've got Oxford going down. That's a tough scene. I do just want to mention quickly West Brom as part of this conversation. They are 7 points above the drop zone right now. But it's because they've hired a new manager, Eric Ramsey from Minnesota United in MLS. Eric Ramsey is a young English manager who got his first senior job out in Minnesota. He's 34. He's actually a little younger than you and a little older than me. Wait, what are you? November?
35.
Yeah.
November, yeah.
And he is a career coach. His name has circled so much over the last 10 years for various roles that he's held, particularly at Manchester United. He was constantly being linked with like Shrewsbury and other, because he has ties to that area, and other jobs in League One, League Two. He went to MLS for his first job, and interestingly gave quite an interesting interview that said he basically studied data that suggested that starting your career in English football is just so risky because it's unlikely you'll get more than like 6 months, which is quite interesting given that he's replacing Ryan Mason, who took his first leap into senior management with West Brom, got 6 months approximately, and is now out on his own. Eric Ramsey, I'm quite excited based on the research that I've done his time in MLS, recognising that the style of football is very different out there, and just the loads of the circumstances around MLS are very, very different to Championship football. But he had that team very defensively organised, incredibly good out of possession. They are one of the poorest teams in MLS. They have one of the lowest wage bills. Obviously, wage data is publicly available, so you can way more easily evaluate a manager's performance versus their wage bill. And he massively overperformed. Basically gave them one or two of their best ever seasons. I had his style of play described by an MLS expert as Nouveau Valerian Ismail Chaos Ball.
Amazing.
In that they are defensively very, very organised and incredibly fast and chaotic
Nouveau is incredible.
And direct.
Yeah.
Massive set piece focus, but they basically like couple of things that I noted. They never once lost back-to-back games in the league, which I always think is quite a nice little thing for a manager to point at. Every time we lose, I made some changes. We got back on the wagon. We didn't go back-to-back. They made £10 million in player sales, which is the second most in the league. So he did a real good job developing and selling players. They had the lowest possession in the league, the best XG per shot against, which speaks to great organisation out of possession, reducing opposition chance quality. They had they were the biggest set piece team, basically, like long throws all over the show, and they attacked with directness and with speed. They weren't the most hugely potent attack in terms of open play chance creation, but I think it's a really interesting appointment. I'm excited to see how he goes. Some West Brom fans will go, no, we just appointed a young rookie manager. Why are we appointing another one? But
so much.
There's actually not that much comparison to be made between Mason
and the same person?
Eric Ramsey, as far as I can tell.
It's interesting, though. Surely there'll be some Baggies fans shuddering at the mere mention of Valérien Ismaël, who was basically hounded out of the club, not necessarily purely because of results, because the results weren't bad, but because they didn't like the style of play. So,
yeah, and it might be that
West Brom fans going to love out of possession, relatively compact, a lot of long throws and set pieces. Don't know. I mean, I'm excited to see it.
Yeah,
but let's see. Really interesting. Friday Night Football live on Sky. Ramsey's first game, Ramsey hosting, or Ramsey's West Brom hosting Middlesbrough. So given that Hellball, from what we've seen so far, is basically the complete opposite of what you've just mentioned, it should be quite a fun game.
Yeah. So just to recap our Championship mid-season predictions, I've got Ipswich winning the league with Coventry in second. I've got Middlesbrough, Watford, Sheffield United and Wrexham making the playoffs. I've got Sheffield Wednesday, Oxford and Portsmouth going down.
Yeah, pretty similar, aren't we? Coventry top for me, Ipswich in second, Borough, Watford, Preston, Sheffield United, my playoff quartet. Wednesday, Oxford and Pompey, all returning to League One after a couple of seasons up here. But with the caveat that if Leicester are whacked with a big deduction, I could see them being a team embroiled in this mess at the end of the day. But it's mid-January now. Surely we've got to know soon.
We want to hear from you in the comments. We want to hear what you majorly disagree with. But we also would love you to put your predictions where your mouth is. And we want you to list your top two. We want you to tell us who you think will make the 4 playoff spots and who will get relegated. And then we can all look back at the end of the season and see who's the smartest in the room. This has been the NTT20 Podcast Monday pod, sponsored by Skybet and the Skybet EFL Building Foundations Fund, and housed this week and this week only by Spotify in their very plush studio. So with a big thanks to them and to you for listening or watching. Cheers and go well. You can find the League 1 and League 2 episodes wherever you found this one.